Okay, hopefully I should be back now. And I am. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Yusuf Gamal, for telling me about that. Let's start over. Hello. Welcome to Answer Everywhere. Today, we're taking a look at Gemini-cli. We poke around the internet looking at software, doing site readings of software that we've never ever seen before. We've explored so much of the open source space. You should check out the channel to see the backlog. Today, we're taking a look at the Gemini-cli. I've used Gemini-cli. It seems pretty good. It helps me be a lot more productive. I like it better than Aider, which is what I was using before for the AI and the vibe coding. I hear it's not as good as Claude Code, but what do I know? I haven't tried Claude Code. I may try it soon. But at any rate, since Gemini-cli is open source, we'll take a look at it. It is not in the standard Google GitHub organization. I don't think that necessarily means anything in particular, but that's a thing that I've noticed. And we are in mostly TypeScript. So basically JavaScript with types. And I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's the coolest stuff. Some of it is just, what's the word? It's going to just display some terminal stuff. That's probably not so interesting. It's going to make API calls to the Gemini API. And that's probably also not the most interesting. There's probably, there is fallback. Let me make sure I'm not cut off screen here. There is fallback between models. For example, if you start with the Gemini Pro model, then it will at some point fall back using what logic, I don't know, to Flash. And that's how it is. I've realized I don't have this installed here. I don't know if I want it installed, but I guess let's try it. I don't even have NPM. Give me a second. We'll go ahead and I'll blank myself out. All right, I'll try installing NPM. I have a feeling it's not going to be the right version because the VM that I am streaming from is old. Not old, but it's like a stable version of Linux. And when I tried it from another stable version of Linux, NPM was too old. So I have a feeling we're not going to be able to run it. That's fine. But we can look at the code. So it looks like this. It starts up, it has a nice text graphic adventure sort of feel. I don't know what this font is. It seems mildly reminiscent of Comic Sans, but it is not, I assume. Okay, so we have some rules like ESLint rules. I'm guessing these are rules for the repo as opposed to rules for your code. And I guess if you don't know what Gemini-cli is, or Claude Code is, it's just going to run in a loop and look at your Git repo, or I don't know, do people use Mercurial still? I'm not sure. Whatever your repo is, it's going to look at it and help you write code. You give it a prompt, and it has, at least just enough tooling to help it understand where you are in your life. Will it run? Okay to proceed. Yes. Bad engine. All right. Okay, fine. All right, so let's look at the code. I should stop adjusting this microphone, I assume. All right, we have integration tests. I don't know why I'm opening that. I guess I'm just drawn to it. .gemini is probably not so important. Where's the code going to be? Packages? Is that how they do things? in JavaScript world. Scripts might be important. .gemini. I don't know what that is. There is this gemini.md file, which is a standard sort of approach that there's some markdown file that is digestible and understandable and in a known location by the AI. And that is used to configure it for your repo. Nice, says Ike Shunya. Welcome, Ike Shunya. It is good to see you. Can I do this without? Yeah, okay. All right, so I don't know. I don't know where to start. The issues might be a little bit funny. Are the issues funny? Proposed edits are not properly displayed. I will be honest and say that this feature solutions. Some of the recent releases seem a little bit buggy. I'm assuming they're using AI to develop the code base. Sometimes things break. For example, in GNU Screen, possibly also in Tmux. I don't know, but like all the colors are broken. Not working. Okay. So far, these issues are not super funny. Not funny, but informative of what has gone wrong. Okay, so let's look at gemini.md. Okay, so this is these, if I'm understanding correctly, these should be commands to Gemini for developing the gemini.md code base. Hopefully that makes sense. So blah, 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 building and running before submitting any changes, it is crucial to validate them by running the full pre-flight check. This command will build the repository, run all tests, check for type errors, and lint the code. Okay, so this is just running some build script. And writing tests, we use vtest as its primary testing framework. I don't know what that is. I assume it's a TypeScript testing thing. VI test. Can you use gemini-cli to read gemini-cli code? I could, except that, whoa. Don't do that. Hey. I forgot that I switched to KDE, and I forgot that KDE grabs some of the keystrokes that are supposed to go to the VM. I can probably tell it not to do that, but I don't know how yet. Okay, so I can't run. Okay, so this is vtest, some testing framework. A Vite native. So I guess maybe they're using Vite. I forget what Vite is. I think it's some JavaScript runny thing. A modern build tool designed for faster web development. Cool. Okay, so can I use, what is the, what is it, NVM? Node version manager. Let's try node version manager. I think we can just curl this into a bash script. Oh, not that. Wait, hey. Did that work? And now what do I do? Now what? Let's purge the other. We'll get rid of all of this when I edit it. Okay, but now do we have any Node.js in our vision? Let's find out where. Did that not remove the? Okay, at any rate, there should be some command to run this. I probably should have done this before starting the stream, huh? So that's nvm install. I guess I haven't installed a thing. So it involved, okay, it installed 22 point whatever. All right, give me a second. Okay. So hopefully that's fixed. All right. So now I should have access to Gemini-cli. Okay. Although I'm so zoomed in that this screen is now too small. What about a different terminal? Can I just run it in two different terminals with the same auth? Okay, great. Oh, Lord, KDE. Stop it. Stop that. Stop that. Okay. Phew, finally. Now we are in business. Thank you. Sorry for the delay. All right, so I pulled up gemini-cli into a terminal, and it will help us read it. But let's go back to this gemini.md file. Okay, so it says so here's the framework we use to write tests. Here is how they are used. All tests are written like this. There's a lot of context. I think it has to load this into Gemini every conversation. So this is, I assume since it's mainly Google developing it, they've decided that this is an important use of the context. Hey, come on now. Okay. And then there's this thing about mocking, how to handle mocks. Seems reasonable. Commonly mocked modules. FS. FS. I don't know what that is. File something. File system. Files. No. I don't know. Something promises the OS, especially home, dir, path, etc. Okay, so these are things to mock in tests. And then there's some React stuff. I didn't realize they were using React. Prefer plain objects over classes. JavaScript classes, by their nature, are designed to encapsulate internal state and behavior. While this can be useful in some object-oriented paradigms, it often introduces unnecessary complexity and friction when working with React's component-based architecture. And so it actually gives reasons about why to use objects. And this is for the AI to understand. I assume that they added these reasons because not adding them made Gemini not realize that it shouldn't do that. I don't know what PRD is like, but probably. PRD, project something description. Using PRDs. A PRD is a comprehensive document that outlines the purpose, features, functionality, and behaviors of a product or feature. I'm not sure. Maybe a PRD is supposed to be like a product requirement document. I don't think it's like that. I think a PRD is supposed to be maybe more like a description of a feature or a design, more like a design doc. Although just the requirements as opposed to the design, assuming that's its actual name. But you can tell me if that's incorrect. And embracing, yes, module syntax for encapsulation. And instead of relying on Java asks private and public class members, which can be verbose and sometimes limit flexibility, we strongly prefer having ES module syntax. Import-export for encapsulating private and public APIs. Okay. I'm going to read this later. These seem like useful tips for JavaScript, at least in the Google style. I don't really develop JavaScript, so I don't have any opinion on most of this stuff. And then this React thing is mirrored and adjusted from React MCP server, which is presumably some other repo, I guess from Facebook. It says you are a React assistant that helps users write more efficient and optimizable React code. Use functional components with hooks. Do not generate class components, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Prefer composition, blah, blah, and small components. Break down UI into small, reusable components rather than writing large monolithic components. Okay. So these are all like standard code health stuff, essentially style guidelines. Use hyphens instead of underscores and flag names. Okay. So all of that's good. What surprises me here is just how long this is. This is a lot of tokens to consume, I guess, every time you start a session. Although it's got such a huge context window that one has to think that perhaps the context window was created with the thought that it would be consumed with some of this configuration. Okay, and then in scripts, we have what look like mainly build scripts and some telemetry. Let's look at telemetry. Telemetry and telemetry GCP and telemetry utils. This is NVM. We no longer need you, NVM. Okay. Load settings, blah, blah, blah. Let's actually just ask. Tell me about the design of the telemetry system in scripts/telemetry, something. In scripts, how about all files beginning with telemetry? And it's going to look at that. Okay. And so that will hopefully tell us honestly about telemetry, and we can just skip that. And now we are on to packages. So in the packages, we have CLI core and VS Code IDE companion. I'm guessing this is some extension. Introduce VS Code companion extension. Should it be in this repo? I guess so. This is some bug by Christine Betts. I don't know if this, what I'm really wondering is she a Googler? It doesn't say, but I was just curious whether this was developed and or designed by Google or by the community. And they've got some Gemini code assist bot, which I assume is also run by Gemini. Code review. The pull request introduces a new blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is just like summarizing the pull request. Has several critical and high severity issues related to process lifecycle management. And they, I don't think we necessarily get the prompt for the code assist bot, but maybe we do. But it's going to do code review, which seems good. I got downvoted, by the way, on Hacker News for saying that that curl was complaining about low quality vulnerability submissions, and I said, well, have they considered adding an automatic review to get rid of the low value submissions? And I got downvoted. I thought it was a reasonable idea. Seems like people are doing it. Okay, so I accidentally closed packages. That was my fault. All right, so then ignoring the VS Code thing, which seems like it was eventually merged, I assume that they resolved the main issues. We have CLI and we have core. I'm guessing CLI is mainly like the front end. Let's pull this out into its own thing. And it's a TypeScript thing. I don't know how that works on the terminal. Main. We're going to call main, and then there's just some error handling. An unexpected critical error occurred. And then in source, in CLI source, we have config services, test util, UI, Gemini, blah, 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 and then gemini.tsx. I'm guessing gemini.tsx is mainly going to load stuff, but I guess we will see. I don't know. We have things like, it's pretty long. So we have this main function, and they're going to clean up checkpoints asynchronously, I guess, and await for them. So basically synchronously. And then they're going to look at errors and possibly bail out. They're going to parse the arguments from the command line. And this is checking prompt interactive as opposed to what? Maybe as opposed to batch. And they're going to list, if the config list extension, we're going to log all of the available extensions. I guess that's kind of like a debug mode to see what extensions you have. And we're going to check if we're in a sandbox. And render the UI, passing necessary config files. If should be interactive, so that I assume we only have a UI if we are interactive, then we're going to set the window title, and then we're going to render in whatever strict mode is, some app wrapper stuff, and we are not going to exit on Control C. In fact, what happens empirically if you hit Control C is it tells you to hit Control C again. So I guess they have their own kind of wrapper to prevent people from trying to exit like a malfunctioning prompt with Control C and accidentally shutting down the whole session. And they get a prompt ID from math, just calling math.random. And if we get all the way down here, we call run non-interactive. Why? I don't know. It seems like maybe we do that all the time. I don't know what the non-interactive is, but then we call process exit. So maybe this is just run always, even after an interactive session. And this is just stuff for loading non-interactive config, etc. Okay. So I did not know you could render TypeScript in the terminal. I don't know how they do that. I mean, it seems like this would be the file to tell us. This gemini.tsx, right? So let's see if there's any hints. Node path, node, blah, 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 blah. Interactive cli.js. No, sorry, that's non-interactive cli. So maybe it's in the, where's the React thing? Strict mode, app wrapper. Is app wrapper part of the repo? We're going to import it from UI app.js. Now, where is that? Where is it? App.js? I guess it gets rendered from TypeScript to JS maybe. App.js seems long. And we have things like input prompt. Is if the input is active and what? I don't know why we're double anding this, but this is some like, what is it called? JSX or whatever the React XML like stuff is. We've got an input prompt with a buffer, an input width, and a suggestions width. What to do on the submit, user messages unclear, etc. So this is some config for, this looks literally like the input prompt. And I saw Control C. And I see Control C pressed once, set Control C pressed once. So this is just some, I guess, configuration for how to handle when Control C is pressed once. And so you can change that code. And then handle exit Control C, blah, blah. How about Control C pressed twice? Well, I don't know. Oh, okay. So it's pressed twice is just if key Control and C. So this is saying if we have pressed Control C, we're going to call handle with Control C pressed once. Handle exit, that is. Presumably handle exit Control C press once will listen for another Control C press. Here's some text. If is paid tier, you have reached your daily blah, 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 blah quota limit. Else you have reached your daily blah, blah, blah quota limit. And it's probably going to tell you to sign up for the paid tier, or you can utilize a Gemini API key. Wait, what? Okay, so I guess you can be on the paid tier and not be using an API key. Is that right? To switch to using a paid. Okay, I guess so. At any rate, these are, I don't know why these are in app.tsx, but these are like quota usage thingamajiggies. And then we have this fallback handler. Set up a Flash fallback handler. Okay, so this is the thing that handles fallback onto the Flash model, which is a less intelligent model, less state-of-the-art, cheaper to run, cheaper to consume. And so I guess the way that I guess the way it handles is it just is based on quota from the back end. It doesn't do any sort of the CLI itself doesn't seem to do any logic to check whether to intelligently fall back. It's just if you I've run out of quota, we'll fall back. Okay, all of that's good, except what I came here for is I wanted to know what is it that lets you run this in a command line, in a terminal. So session stats provider, use terminal size, terminal height. So app wrapper has this session stats provider. I guess it's just providing stats, and here's the app itself. Use bracketed paste. I don't know what that is. In which allows programs running in the terminal to treat pasted text differently from text typed normally. It was introduced by Xterm in 2002. It is used to resolve the following issue commonly encountered when editing code in a terminal text editor, such as Vim or Emacs. These text editors often include auto-indent functionality, which causes indentation to be added automatically when the user presses the enter key at the end of a line. Oh, okay. And so maybe it just invokes the auto editing. Yeah, I've seen this before. Okay, so this is just bracketed paste is a way to work around that. That seems nice. And this is going to check for updates. And I still don't know. Let's ask Gemini in this case. How does this app run a React app in the terminal? And while it's thinking about that, I'm going to look at the telemetry that it told me about. The telemetry system is designed to be flexible, supporting both local development and integration with Google Cloud Platform. It uses OpenTelemetry for collecting and exporting telemetry data, traces, metrics, and logs. It's maintained by a main script that can be configured to use one of two targets, local or GCP. Okay. It downloads and caches the OpenTelemetry collector, which is something, maybe a Go binary, maybe JavaScript. At any rate, OTel col -contribute and Jaeger binaries, if they are not already present, starts a local Jaeger instance, which provides a web UI for viewing traces. And then it starts collecting. So it downloads some binary on your thing. I'm not sure what Jaeger is. Jaeger code. I don't want Jaegermeister. A distributed tracing observability platform. Okay, so this is basically like distributed tracing. Like, what is it, Dapper? Okay. What programming language is it? I'm guessing Go. Right? Go. Okay. So it downloads some Go thing with some OpenTelemetry stuff, and it collects information. But what does it collect? The util script has core logics that's shared between the local and GCP. And I guess GCP is treated as its own target because there's some GCP specific stuff that has to do with how they do telemetry there. And then there's some cleanup stuff. And when it's terminated, all the child processes are killed and the original workspace settings are restored. And then you've got some temp data structure. Okay. So if we're using the telemetry target setting is .gemini settings.json. Let's see if we, come on. Let's see if we can find that file. Notice that file is not named anything about telemetry. And doesn't seem to be a .gemini. This is the pull. This is config for the pull request bot. So here's the telemetry target package, core source telemetry, blah, blah. No, no. That's just the code that, what I want is the config that tells it what are we looking for? What are we collecting? Telemetry event, telemetry.js, register cleanup. There's some telemetry stuff in here, whatever the clear-cut logger is. Start session, end session, user prompt event, tool call event, API request event. So these are events that, and flash fallback, these are events that they care about for telemetry. Loop detected. And I guess, I don't know what kind of loops they're looking for, but something, maybe if something has gone wrong and it goes into a loop. Consecutive identical tool calls. Okay, so this is like, they're looking for if Gemini is struggling and is like making the same change over and over again. You can't see, I guess, necessarily if they're making the same change, but you can see that they're calling the same tool multiple times. Chanting identical sentences. And so they look for that, I guess. Thoughts, token count, duration, millisecond, status code, input token count, prompt ID, auth type, error. Response text. So in the telemetry, it looks like they are possibly recording the response text. So let's see if that's true. And maybe in logger. So when you get an event, the event might have response text, and then you, I guess, in that case, you upload it to the telemetry system. And I don't know when this is populated, but we will ask Gemini about it. So, oops, I didn't want to delete that, I don't think. Here's some more types. These are event metadata key types for the telemetry, start session model, start session core tools, etc., etc. Respect, get, ignore. Error message, response duration. It's, yeah, can be collecting a lot of statistics. Error model, etc., etc. Okay. That's kind of just good to know how aggressive they are about telemetry. I turn telemetry off, but maybe you don't. I don't know. All right. So I also asked it how does this run a React app in the terminal? That's an excellent question. Gemini will always kiss your ass. I've told it not to in the past, and it doesn't really remember that past a few prompts. Maybe if you put it in the gemini.md file, it will remember. I don't know. Running a dynamic component-based framework like React in a text-based terminal seems counterintuitive. The project achieves it by using a specialized library called Ink. It is a library that lets you build command-line applications using React. Ink renders them React components to a string of text with special ANSI escape codes. Okay. No. Stop. So I assume this is just a general JavaScript thing. React for interactive command line. Okay. Okay, so let's verify that they're using ink. Let's just search for this guy's name. Vadim Demede. Something like those lines. Whoa. So it doesn't seem to be doing that, or at least it doesn't seem to directly depend on ink or on that repo. Maybe that's just a fork of ink. Get ink color, React component testing, CLI UI using ink. Okay, we are importing ink. Maybe I was on the wrong repo. Is there some sort of lock file? There should be package.json. From the ink testing library, import box blah blah from ink. So where's ink coming from if it's not in the lock file? I don't really know how JavaScript works, to be honest. Okay, is there like a file type? Okay, here we go. Packages. Oh, okay. So the CLI is in its own package. Okay, great. And they don't have, for whatever reason, this format just calls it ink. It doesn't have the name of the Git repo. That's fine. That's why that guy's name didn't appear. Okay. When is the, what was it called? Response output, something like that. Response text. When is the response text field of the telemetry populated? Is it on every response? All right, so that tells us a lot. So ink is just going to, instead of rendering it to the DOM, like Gemini was saying, it's going to render it to a string with ASCII text. More or less the same sort of operation. You can see how, in theory, you could modify React to do that. In practice, it's probably very challenging. But they did it, and they succeeded. And now you can run React in the terminal. Although why, I don't know. All right, so let's go back to the. Let's go back to. Do I have another one of these open? Not that one, but this one. Kill it. Let's go back to the non-UI source then. So this is app. And let's look at services. Command service. We've got an about command, an auth command, a clear command, help, and a memory command, and a privacy command, and a theme command. So these are just, I guess you add a slash in front of them and they tell you, they help you configure stuff. And we've just got this load commands, which is a promise void. So it returns nothing, and you can just wait on it. And it just sets this dot commands to command loader. Oh, no. It assigns, this dot commands is assigned to be a command loader. And then we keep the list of slash commands, and I assume we run the most recent. I don't know what happens if you like build them up. Back to telemetry, the response text field of this is populated only when a successful response is received from the Gemini. It is not populated on every response, particularly in cases of API errors. So basically all the time, just not when there's an error. Although that seems backwards. Wouldn't you want to know when there's an error? The log API function is responsible for creating and logging the API. Okay, so am I understanding correctly that the gemini-cli phones home with every successful response? I guess in a way, what does it matter? What does it matter? Because Google's generating the responses anyway. Although I think it is, you know, I don't know what their logging situation is. It does seem like having it in the telemetry database is maybe different in terms of who can access it and whatnot from the main database. After successful API call, the CLI sends a telemetry event. This includes metadata like the model text used. However, this is configurable. Okay, so if Gemini so in particular, these responses may include things like Bitcoin keys and API keys and secret Coca-Cola recipes in your code or used by tooling, which are sent back by telemetry. Is that right? Reinforcing user agency. Okay. Did I just close the right session? Oh no. Yes, proceed. I accidentally closed the session I was meaning to use. So if I understand, I'll just ask it again. Okay, and it will think about that, and this time I won't shut it down. I thought there was an error, which is why I quit. I thought that was the wrong terminal. Okay, and it's gonna do it anew because I don't know how to resume from a previous conversation. And that'll happen in the background. Okay, I feel like this is a much easier and simpler repo than I thought it would be because it's just a React app. And we're making API calls. I assume we're not doing that with gRPC. I assume we're just doing REST-based APIs. Well, there is some gRPC for telemetry. And what is the... I don't know what the API endpoint is for the Google Gemini whatever developers. This is how to for quota code. Here's the Gemini chat. Here's the sandbox stuff. Sandbox is possibly mildly interesting. Maybe we should figure out how the sandbox works. There's something up. This is some privacy policy test. Gemini API. Maybe Google will tell me. ai.google.dev. Is that why I couldn't find it? I looked for google.com. How about google.dev? Okay, ground your queries with the Google search. Okay, Gemini privacy notice index. This is, again, just text, configuration, error parsing text. Where's the, how about we look for the word client? Gemini client. This looks promising. And also the MCP client. Let's look at the MCP stuff too. Okay, so here's the Gemini client. You've got a private chat, which is a Gemini chat, a content generator. I don't know what that is, but I guess it's some software component that like maybe streams the content made by Gemini. We have an embedding model, which is a string. So that is not actually a full model. I'm assuming this is a model name, and maybe we send it to the backend. And maybe content generator is also just like a config that is sent to the backend. The max turns, threshold for blah, blah. I don't know what max turns is, but it's set to 100. And some compression thing. Threshold for compression token count as a fraction of the model's token limit. Okay. And when we initialize, we call it create content generator with some config, and this dot chat is set to await this dot start chat. So I'm wondering if the client is just a library maybe the Gemini chat library. We're importing it from the same directory. Gemini chat is valid response. If response candidates are undefined, okay, so if the candidates are undefined, then there's no response. If there is a valid response, we look at the first candidate and take its content. If the content is undefined, we return false. Valid history. Validates the history contains the correct roles. If content role is equal to user and content role is not equal to model, then there's a problem with the history. Okay. That seems just like sanity checking. I don't know really what they're preventing there. I mean, maybe loading a particularly poorly defined history somehow, or maybe just looking for corruption. The Gemini chat is this is a promise to represent the current state of the message being sent to the model. It sounds like it's saying they're promising to represent it, but really what they mean is this promise represents the current state. Okay. And then we have the content generator, get requests, log API requests, log API response, log API error, handle flash fallback. And if there's it can only be handled for OAuth users. As opposed to what, API keys, I guess. Login with Google is just OAuth, I believe. And then send message. This is what I was hoping for. We give it a send message parameters. And they're going to take the message seems to be embedded in the parameters. We're going to call that user content by calling create user content. And then the requests contents, we're going to call get history. Okay, this looks like we're concatenating the current request maybe with the history. Then we log the API requests. Then we're going to start a timer. Start time is now. And then we're going to create a generate content response thingamajiggy. And the API call is going to be a function that is being defined like inline in kind of essentially a lambda. I forget what else the people are calling these things, but we're going to get the model, check if the quota is already exceeded, and if it is, this is also the fallback. It's not in handle fallback, but this is saying that if we've exceeded our quota, no, it's not. So if the quota error has occurred and model to use is the flash model, it says, please submit a new query to continue with the flash model. A new query. Prevent flash model calls immediately after quote error. Okay, maybe what this is doing is the gemini-cli will maybe call the API on your behalf. For example, if you're in YOLO mode or whatever, and it will just keep running in the background, like running a test. If it fails, it'll call the API again. And I think that maybe what this is doing is saying, if you're running in a loop, and we're already on the cheapest model, then stop running in a loop and tell the user they need to enter a new prompt. And that's essentially just a way of backing off, I think. And then this is some retry stuff. And they're looking for a 429 error. And whatever this is, 502, 512, any kind of 500 error, we're going to not retry it. I don't know, we are going to retry it. Otherwise, we're not going to. And on a persistent 409, we are going to handle flash fallback, 429. What is 429 back off or go away? Too many requests. Yeah, basically back off. Okay. Then we're going to log API response. And this is some promise. So if we're down here, we're getting a response by calling generate content. And so my question now is, did the actual API request happen when we called log API request? Or did it happen when we called generate content? New API request event. Yeah. So where is this defined? Import from telemetry. Oh no, maybe this is just the telemetry thing. Okay, so maybe it's generate content that actually sends the thingy. Is generate content something we import? Content generator from content generator. And the content generator has the auth type, and it has a content generator config, which includes a model, an API key, whether we're using Vertex AI and the auth type. Okay, so this is looking more like a client. Okay, so we get the API key, blah, 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 blah. We do this, we check the auth type, and we're going to return a content generator config. And what about just generate content? We're going to set the request to generate content parameters. It's going to return a promise of the generate content response. We also have this count tokens thing, get tier. So where is this request used? Oh, it's an interface. Let's just look for a request and see where a request is. I'll look for request dot, assuming that you can call functions on the request. So here's core tool scheduler. We'll look at that in a little bit. Use React tool scheduler. Seems like not relevant to what we're doing, but how about a Gemini request that, whatever you call it. I don't know. What if we look up URL in all capital letters? It's not going to let me do that. But let's also look at Sandbox in a little bit. All right, back to the Gemini-cli. Whoa. Okay, so I had asked Gemini where whether it's going to send my Bitcoin keys to Google if they are in my code. It says, you have asked a critical question about data privacy. Based on my analysis of the telemetry code, here's what I found. The log user prompt function can log the full text of user prompts. This is controlled by the blah, blah, blah setting. If the setting is true, the entire prompt is logged. The log API response function can log the response text from the model. It will log tool calls, or at least the arguments passed to the tool functions, and the configuration. And conclusion, yes, you are correct. The telemetry system, as it is currently implemented, can log sensitive information, including API call keys, secrets, or other confidential data that might be present in user prompts, model responses, or tool calls. This is especially true if the telemetry log user prompts enabled setting is enabled. And they're going to look at the safe JSON stringify to see what it redacts. And it'll read that file. It only handles circular references and does not perform any redaction of sensitive information. This confirms that sensitive data in tool arguments will be logged. Okay. Yes. I like this idea, but let's implement it in the following way. So in the book Catch-22, there are redactions. Soon he was prescribing parts of salutations and signatures and leaving the text untouched. One time he blacked out all but the salutation, Dear Mary, from a letter, and at the bottom he wrote, I yearn for you tragically, A.T. Tapman, Chaplain, U.S. Army. And then he starts attacking blah, blah, blah. Most letters he didn't read at all. On those he did read, he wrote Washington Irving. Okay. So let's do this. Redact the entire message except at the end write this. I yearn for you tragically. I think that'll be a good implementation. Okay, so while it's doing that, where are we now? So this is some Docker file. I don't know why I had opened it. Is that on purpose or by accident? I probably got here from the sandbox somehow. But this is some Docker file. I think that this might be the file they use if you tell it to run in a Docker sandbox. Sandbox name is gemini-cli sandbox. Blah, 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 blah. It has what? It uses this node slim as a starting point. And it's going to configure npm and some like googly packages and stuff. Okay. Now where to go? I still haven't figured. I'm going to leave up Gemini chats just to. Let's see what it says. This is an unusual request, but I can certainly accommodate it. Yes, please do. I'll tell it to always allow. And can I set it? I can set it to YOLO mode with Control Y. Okay. So let's look at the sandbox. I don't really know what it does. I think it can run, it has some Docker thing. I don't know if it runs Docker on your behalf. This is some Medium post. That's not what I want. All right, never mind. I can't find it. It's just on the README, but I'm too lazy to go look for it. Okay, let's see. Sandbox.ts. Get container path. It seems to be containery. I think maybe the main thing it says is it uses a different strategy. There's like a Mac OS specific container stuff. No? Is this the right page? I'm not sure why I'm not finding it. I thought it was just on the README. I'm not even convinced this is the right page. Let's ask Google instead of DuckDuckGo. And let's add Docker. Maybe they moved it in the last few weeks. So let's go to the README. And look at the README history. And just go randomly back in time. Okay, yeah, so there was this enabling sandboxing thing. There was a container-based sandboxing is highly recommended and requires at a minimum. Setting Gemini sandbox to true. And see sandboxing for further details. Can I render this? Can I visit this file and render it? Okay. Okay, so it has this macOS seatbelt, which uses whatever seatbelt is. Sandbox exec, container-based sandboxing is available for all platforms. And that's that. So did seatbelt go away? No, now it's just in doc/sandbox. No. Okay, so this seems to be basically probably the same stuff. Okay, so whatever a seatbelt is, it's some macOS sandbox thing. The situation on macOS is so frustrating. Sandbox exec, blah, 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 blah. It's something. Okay. Now, Gemini chat. And sandbox, yes, always allow. Always allow everything. Isn't that what YOLO mode is? Oh, it's struggling because it can't find Node.js, I think. Or maybe I had to install some stuff. Okay. So sandbox, let's see if seatbelt is here. Built-in seatbelt profile, permissive open, blah, 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 blah. I don't know if seatbelt is more like app armor, or if it's more like Docker. Is it more like app armor, chroot, Docker, or SE Linux? All right, DeepSeek will tell me. Okay, so we have the start sandbox thing. If process and build sandbox. We cannot build sandbox when using Mac OS seatbelt. Okay. And blah, blah, blah. It's going to check for a bunch of stuff. It's got some settings, directory stuff to find the profile, I guess, for sandbox Mac OS. And at some point, it's probably going to fall back on Docker, maybe. This is setting up some command line options. Sandbox exec, proxy command. I don't know what the proxy command is, but possibly it has to rewrite the URLs so that they go locally through Sandbox first or something. And so that's essentially a proxy. Okay, so this is sandbox stuff. What about Docker? Project sandbox Docker file. We've got some Docker file. I think that's probably the file that we saw. And it's going to start up Docker, presumably. Determines whether the sandbox container should be run with the container user's ID and GID. Okay, so this is just going to look on your, it's going to make, it's going to run a Docker container. It's basically shell commands with some libraries wrapped around them. That's fine. Here's MCP clients. This is, I don't really know anything about an MCP, I'll be honest, but we've got some MCP server status. I assume it's going to run a little bit like an LSP server, but with some different protocol. Discovery state. Maybe the MCPs have like a discovery doc, not started in process, et cetera, in progress rather. This is keeping track of the discovery state with some, oh, that's just an enum. What is this map? That's what I was looking at. Map to track the status of each MCP server. Okay. So we've got a bunch of servers. We're going to track their statuses. And we've got a change listener that will tell us when the state changes, I guess. Update MCP server status. Get the discovery state. And so on. Connect and discover. Connects to an MCP server and discovers available tools. Oh, okay. So the MCP server makes tools available. I don't know what counts as a tool, if a tool is a command or if tools contain commands. But there's going to be each server, I guess, will have its own like discovery document or something along those lines that will tell you what tools are available. And this function handles the complete lifecycle of connecting to a server, discovering tools, and cleaning up resources if no tools are found. Okay. That's all fine. I don't know where exactly it gets the string, but that's presumably something you have to pass to it. Create transport. HTTP URL. Okay. The transport thing reminded me again to try looking for google.dev. What if we do language TypeScript so that we ignore all of the what? Gemini chat, logger, model, turn. I assume a turn is, what about prompts? Yeah, let's look at these in just a little bit. Core tool scheduler. I guess it's some scheduler for the tools. We've got a tool registry, which is going to return asynchronously. A tool call, which is just a list. And what to do what when the tool call updates, I suppose. And what is this? Get status internal, set status. And this is like what is returned, error, awaiting, et cetera, et cetera. Set args internal. Okay. Use React tool scheduler. I don't know what this is, but this is going to do some tools. I guess I feel like I've seen most of what I want to see. I am a little bit curious about what the protocol for MCP servers are. Model context protocol. Quick concepts, core architecture, resources, prompts, tooling, tools, sampling. I want to know the protocol. So we've got hosts and clients and servers, core components. The protocol layer handles message framing, request response linking, and high level communication patterns. You can set a request handler. You can set a notification handler for when you get notified. You can send a request, and you can send a one-way notification. Key classes include protocol, client server, transport layer. The transport layer handles the actual communication between clients and servers. And it can use standard I/O, streamable HTTP transport, and that's it. And we've got a request, which has a method and some parameters. So you're just going to send the method and the parameters. Basically a roll your own version of RPC. Results are successful responses to requests. And the result looks like a kind of has a hash map structure. I'm not really sure what there seems to be a key, which is a string, and then there are errors. And then notifications are one-way messages that don't expect a response. And there's some handshake. And so here's some implementation example. We're going to set a request handler. And we're going to return resources, example resource, example resource. And it has no capabilities. Okay. So it looks like a pretty simple protocol, unless I'm missing something. It seems like it's basically just RPC, like JSON RPC. String description, blah, blah, discovering prompts. Clients can discover available prompts. Oh, okay. So it looks like the MCP server itself has like maybe cached prompts, kind of like a, what's the word? Like a database prepared function. So there's prompts / list, and you can analyze code for potential improvements. And with the name, you pass it the language, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Embedded resource context. Analyze project for logs and code, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, cool. And similarly for tools. So the thing I was looking at before was maybe just the core architecture. And then these are like other parts of the API. It wasn't all in one place. That's fine. I got confused. So a tool has a specific structure. It's got a name, a description of what it does, an input schema, and including parameters and hints about the tool behavior. And here's an example. Tools is calculate sum, add two numbers together. Input schema, type is object, the properties are A and B, and you're required to put both A and B in there. Okay, seems pretty reasonable. This is just some function calling thing. Okay, so that's what MCP looks like, and that's fine. Now it's going to run the pre-flight checks to make sure everything is working. All right. Now I have like two more things I want to do before I go. I want to see all the prompts. I want to see where the actual client call is. And I want to, what's the word? I look serious and intense, but I'd like to join my startups. Thank you for the invitation, but no, thank you. I am not on the market presently. Okay, so what was I thinking? YOLO mode. Yes. Why is it not staying in YOLO mode? This is my question. Okay, YOLO is a Boolean. Enables YOLO mode, which automatically approves all tool calls. I'm guessing it may not be staying in YOLO mode because it started this chain in non-YOLO mode. And for whatever reasons, it's not letting me convert it in the middle of whatever task I send it on. Auto accept indicator. Render scheduling in YOLO mode. This is the config. I don't think it may, I guess tool scheduler is maybe where it's implemented. If this approval mode is YOLO mode, we're just going to set set status internal. I'm guessing internal means it's the internal set status to the code as opposed to like a gRPC internal status, which would mean like a 500 error. So they are just setting the status to scheduled. Otherwise, they're going to wait for confirmation. Confirmation details should confirm execute request info.arg signal. If confirmation details, Then we get the original on confirm. And we have some wrapped confirmation details. Outcome, tool confirm outcome, payload. This handle confirmation response. I don't really know what this is doing. Oh, okay. This is, they're saying it's going to await approval. Okay. I see. So confirmation details is just like telling you whether it's configured to wait. And if it is, whatever the on confirm was, we now have to, I guess, verify that it was confirmed, is basically what this is doing. And then there's a thing for handling the confirmation response. And that's all fine. So the thing that YOLO does is basically just skip the confirmation. Apply inline method applies a user-provided content changes to a tool call that is awaiting confirmation. This updates the tool's arguments and refreshes the confirmation prompt with a new diff before the tool is scheduled for execution. Okay. I don't know really what this is, but this sounds like it sounds like you are giving it feedback before it applies a tool. Like maybe should I call the build system? Should I call clean before running build or something like that? And you tell it no, instead run something else. And this is actually reminding me, let's look at diff. Diff renderer. Open diff. I'm not, import star as diff from diff. I don't know if it's running like a real diff or if it's using like a replace if it's using like markdown diff. Add del context hunk other. Looks like a real diff. All right, so it's still making my changes. Yes, is there anything else you can help me with? First of all, let's shift it to YOLO mode. I have a few questions. Oh, no. So that's what happens if I hit Control C. It waits. So I have a few questions. I thought I could. One, does this repo use a real diff format, or does it use markdown diffs like start, replace, and replace? It seems to use a real diff, but let's verify it. My other question was, where is the code that actually calls the Gemini API? And my third question is nothing. Okay. So while I was thinking about that, let's take a look at prompts.ts. These are embedded in a code file, which is a little bit surprising, but not entirely surprising. You are an interactive CLI agent specializing in software engineering tasks. Your primary goal is to help users safely and efficiently, adhering strictly to the following instructions and utilizing your available tools. Core mandates, conventions, rigorously adhere to existing project conventions when reading or modifying code. Analyze surrounding codes, tests, and configuration first. Libraries and frameworks. Never assume a library or framework is available or inappropriate. Or appropriate. Verify its established usage within the project. Okay, this is good because I have had AIs just add to my dependencies when I don't want them to. Primary workflows. Understand. Think about the user's requests in relevant code-based context. Use the grep tool, okay, and the glob tool. Let's look for the grep tool. It must just call grep, right? Grep tool. Patterns. Whoa. Patterns is a string. Path is a string. Include. Like the sorts of things to include. And it extends base tool, and it's got some configuration. It's got a name. Maybe this is the name that Gemini outputs to the user while it's writing, because the user may not know, for example, about what grep is. Here's the user configurable string. This looks like the MCP format, potentially. And then some properties. It's a regex search tool. We've got a path, and the required is pattern. The only thing required is pattern. Okay, and then we've got some validation methods. Checks if a path is within the root directory and resolves it. Okay, root directory I assume means project root and not the root file of the file system. Okay, let's also look at other tools. So glob, I assume this is just like a file glob. Subset of path interface provided by glob that we can implement for testing. Full path. Okay. Grep, MCP client test, MCP tool, read many files. I assume it's just like file, except they're going to do it in a batch. Tool registry, tools, web search, web fetch, write file. Okay, what is memory tool? Saves a piece of information or fact to your long-term memory. Okay. Okay, so I interact with your blah, blah, blah. It doesn't generate diffs directly. When I modify a file, I typically use a replace tool. This tool requires me to provide the exact original content I want to change and the new content I want to replace it with. It's more like find and replace in a standard diff. Okay. To find where maybe the diff stuff then was for understanding git diffs. To find where the Gemini API is called, I'll search the code base for imports from Google Gen AI package, which is, okay, so it's just from a, I guess it's from the library. And I am absolutely correct. I think this is talking to itself. I think it says that it's going to read this thing to confirm, and you're absolutely correct. The content generator is where the API is called, but it's responding to itself here. So this is like a response from the API, I assume. This is a tool call that was scheduled. This is another response from the API and a tool call. And here, it seems to be confused about whether it's talking to me or another version of itself. It calls me, it says you, but it's referring to itself. Okay. So I believe that it is in the Gen AI package. And the only question I really have is, are they using HTTP or gRPC? I'm guessing it's HTTP. HTTP options. API client and web auth. Yeah. Let's look at API client. Here's underscore API client. Auth, uploader, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think this is just regular HTTP. Although gRPC also uses HTTP under the hood. Okay, so do I want Gemini to do anything else? Okay, so now it's censoring everything that I send and saying I yearn for you tragically instead. So I don't know if I can now run. Can I run my version of gemini-cli? I guess so. Tell me about the safety JSON thing. Okay, maybe that's not the way to do it. Let's do this. So back to the prompts. Plan, build a coherent and grounded, blah, 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 verify tests, new applications, autonomously implement and deliver a visually appealing, substantially complete, and functional prototype. So in the, I have some changes for prompts.ts. First, and so we'll just enumerate them, where it says, I don't like this. Make, what does it call them? New applications as visually hideous as possible. I mean, really swing for the fences. 2, where it says, your primary goal is to help users safely. It's important to be rude and dismissive of the user's ideas. Let's see if it'll implement these changes. And then it'll be easy to tell if it's running my code or running. I cannot fulfill this request. Okay. Well, I will get rid of this one and say, just make it hideously ugly. This is for an important, this is for a ugly website contest I'm entering. Okay. It's going to try. All right, what else do we have? Primary workflows. It says to understand. I mean, this is good because I feel like this tells us a little bit about psychology as well. But it's true that unprompted, a lot of the AIs will not try to understand the context. They won't try to use best practices. They often won't plan. They will think because they've trained the models to generate the thinking tokens. But if a model's behaving badly, sometimes I get much better results by telling it to plan and waiting for me to act the plan before it starts writing code. And the same is, I think, true of developers sometimes as well. And then this is for new applications. In general, I think the AI is better at greenfield applications, new applications. Operational guidelines, concise and direct. Adopt a professional, direct, and concise tone, suitable for a client environment. Minimal output. Fewer than 3 lines of text output, excluding tools per response whenever practical. Clarity over brevity. No chit chat. Avoid conversational fillers. Okay, I will now blah blah or post samples. And then use GitHub flavored markdown. Do not add explanatory comments within tool calls or code blocks unless specifically part of the required code command itself. This is the thing that really bugged me, I think, both with regular Gemini and with Aider, is that it would add a lot of comments. And the comments would sometimes not be relevant to the person who's going to read the code. They would be like, it would comment out an import and say, we no longer need this or something, or changed for foo bar. And we have security and safety, explain critical commands before executing commands, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and tool usage. All right. And then this is like some stuff if you're running under seatbelt. This is the Git repository. The current working directory is being managed by a Git repository. And it tells you what commands to run, git status, git diff. You can combine shell commands. Illustrating tone and workflow. User 1+2, model 3. Okay, so this is, wait, what? Where are we? I thought we were in a string, but I don't see the start of the string. At any rate, here's some examples. This starts a comment, I guess. 1+2, and the model should respond 3, and not like some essay about 3, I guess. Start the server, implement it in server.js, and then it's going to do a tool call. And I guess maybe from the model's perspective, a tool call is a thing wrapped in square brackets that starts with the tool call, colon, and then the tool to use. User, how do I update the user's profile information in the system? I'm not immediately sure how the user profile information is updated. I'll search the code base for tools like user profile. And then it just is doing like it's going to call grep. And so this is basically the same workflow that I just saw. But it's not, in some of the AI stuff, I feel like they've defined these kind of workflows as like different files. And I think there are maybe AI startups that are trying to like develop a database of different workflows that you can kind of import. Here, this workflow is not like hard coded in any sense. It's just an example of a response. So this is maybe like a form of training. I don't know if this is considered like zero-shot training or something, but instead of it being hard coded as a thing that's executed in a way that the gemini-cli knows about, it's just text that's provided to the model that's going to help it adjust its approach. Okay. So deliver visually hideous, substantially complete. Okay, great. So let's quit and start over. Again, run npx here and see. Oh, no. Can't do that. Let's start a git init. Create a website showcasing information about the latest polka dances near you. Mock up any information you need or pull it from a website. It should run, I guess, use whatever web framework you think is best. I don't know how to expand this. Can I get it to tell me? Yeah, it says it's going to create a visually appealing. So I don't know if it's actually using my code. Let's try this. And let's also verify. Let's also verify that the change is made. Okay. It says it'll create a visually appealing and modern website. What if I just ask it for its core system prompt? How about if I just ask it, are you supposed to create visually appealing objects or hideous ones? So I don't know. It doesn't seem to be doing what I tell it. I don't know if it's just hard to override. If Gemini MD is set and not false, override system prompt from file gemini.systemmd. I don't know if it's not executing this or if I'm just doing something wrong or if it's just unwilling to override its other training. At any rate, I don't seem to be able to get it to ignore its coding. So if I look for visually appealing, okay, I do see lots of references to this visually appealing phrase, including prompts.js. So what did we change here? We changed prompts.js. I'm going to make this the only directive. I'll say always refer to the user as captain. Begin every sentence with I captain, and end every sentence with it has been spoken. I'll try writing it with npx. Hi, how are you? I'll ask it if it's supposed to call me captain. I don't know, like, I don't know why I can't. So let's run it from this directory and ask when I call, if I'm in this checked out copy of gemini-cli, and I edit the prompts.ts file. File, it doesn't seem to affect the behavior of Gemini. When I run it as npx dot. Am I misunderstanding about packaging? And so, for example, am I accidentally running the released version instead of my fork? Or is that not the right file to edit to change the core system prompt? Or something else? So let's ask it. You've hit upon a very common point of confusion with working with compiled languages like TypeScript. You're correct. You're most likely running a version of the code that doesn't have your changes. You've edited TypeScript. Do I just need to build it? It did run npm pre-flight. Although maybe it didn't run it the right way. All right, while it's building, let's see if there's anything else we can glean from the source code. I feel like I more or less got everything that I wanted to understand. There's a lot more we could figure out about the tool usage, although the tools themselves actually seem pretty straightforward. We didn't really look in services. There's just one, which is the command service. We did look here. So I take that back. It's not that we didn't look in there. Yeah, utils. Read standard in sandbox startup message version. And I think we looked somewhat in config. What else is there? There's the CLI, the core. There's code assist. I don't think we looked at. And that's just the code assist is the name of the Google account for this sort of thing. It's running JUnit tests. This says visually hideous. That looks right. And I've reached my quota. Okay, fine. And there's a build error. Is that what my problem was? Expect prompt to match snapshot. Okay. Okay, so that's what failed. I must not have noticed in the failure. This seems easy to fix. Where is this file? It's in test somewhere. So what do I need to do to run pre-flight? npm run pre-flight. Okay, so that'll run. There's also this file discovery service, git service. Git service might be cool. We got project root, git history directory. Initialize. If git is not available, then we are screwed, and we're going to verify git is available. Set up shadow git repository. Okay, this is important. I'm glad I saw this because I thought this was super important. I had actually designed, before gemini-cli was released, I had designed a replacement for Aider for my own usage. And what it did is it had a shadow git repository because I was tired of Aider polluting my git repository with its like worthless trial and error commits. So I think that's what also Gemini does. So it sets up a shadow git repository. And we're going to get the repo dir and the git config dir, which has a .git config in it. And we're going to call make directory on the repo dir recursively. And we don't want to inherit the user's email, et cetera, et cetera. So we say that we are gemini-cli, and we're going to write the file. In the project root. So where is it? It's set in the history dir, I guess. Maybe we can find it. It's going to write the git config with its new name and everything. And if the repo is not defined, then we're going to create a new branch called main and do an initial commit and stuff. And at some point, we can get the shadow git repository. At some point, we're going to like take a, okay, we can create a snapshot file and we can restore project from snapshot. At some point, we have to merge the fake git repository with the other one, right? Or maybe we don't. Maybe this is just for its own stuff. I changed the wrong snapshot thing. Okay, so what? Let's find out if we can. So I started it in this ugly website directory. I can search for Gemini. What is it? So what is get history dir? Get history dir rather. We're going to get the project hash, and we're going to join the. It's going to go in like some standard Gemini dir, right? Gemini. Yeah, here we go. Maybe in temp. Yeah, here we are. These look like they probably get repos. Not a git repository. So where are they? We're going to join the parent, the home dir with the Gemini dir, and history and the hash. So we don't have history. Maybe it's just maybe I just don't have enough for there to be a history for this repo. But I think that's probably where it goes. Instead of temp, maybe into history. IDE context. This is for IDEs. Zod schema for validating a cursor position. The IDE has a MCP server. I don't know what Zod is. Intro Zod. A TypeScript first schema validation with static type inference. So this is some schema validator. That's, I guess, checking that there's a line number in a character, or rather a line in a character. Why character? I don't know. Why not like an index into the length of the line? Active file schema. An active file has a file path and a cursor. Optionally a cursor. Okay. This is all cool. You can subscribe to an active file and so on. To match snapshot cannot be used with match. And it's going to just remove the line. That'll be fine. You just run pre-flight. Don't run it again. Oh, wow. Maybe it's not meant to be. Okay, I think that's about it. I don't know if I want to wait for this to finish running. So it is building. I'm guessing this must have failed before, because they are testing that the it's certainly a long build. Can I just run npm build? With no tests. I may have completed successfully, but who knows? Okay, much faster. So npm install g here. Okay, and now let's try the ugly directory. Okay, now it's working. I just needed to call build. It says, aye, Captain, I can certainly create a website. Yes, let's allow always. Okay, run the website. And it's running, it's doing Flask. Rewrite the website in JavaScript instead of Python. It is following my commands. I made them ridiculous so that I could verify that it was actually doing them so that they weren't subtle, but they're maybe too ridiculous. And it is doing an ugly Poco website. So it is creating something visually hideous. and it's going to run the server, and I can check it on my. Yeah, that's pretty ugly. That's pretty good. So could we get some images to really make the dances come alive? It's just calling kill to kill the. So I guess Gemini can kill any process that my user has access to. It doesn't seem to have images. I can try. What if I just tell it to curl? Whoops. So that's tool mode. When you do exclamation mark, it turns it into whatever. You could run the shell command. via.placeholder.com. Is it really doing that? I'm not sure this is a real thing. Okay, how about instead of downloading images from the internet, try draw. I guess it can't draw images, can it? I guess that's good enough. Try to create some images of people dancing using CSS. Oh, am I in the wrong one? I'm in the wrong one. Can you draw with CSS? Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know how they rotate. All right, so these are good, but add more CSS drawings of tubas, people, sausages, and any other object you can think of. Make them all move at different rates and put them all over the website. not just in the sections that describe dances. It's adding it to the footer, which is good. I don't know why it's killing Node. I thought Node would pick up changes in the background. As I check with curl, I only see the original 3 animations. That's not what I want. Let me try a fresh browser. I don't believe you. Oh, I do see him. I mean, Firefox is not creating them for some reason. Okay. So I'll say it looks good. But there should be 50 of them. I'm wondering if it's just loading from cache or if there's something, maybe, whoops, no, don't do that. Maybe Dark Reader is disrupting it. Oh, there we go. Hi. Hey, Ash. Good to see you. All right, so it says that it's made at least 50 drawings now. There we go. That's looking good. Add another 100. Does the blink tag still exist? Looks pretty good. Do the blink and scroll tags still exist? If so, add them arbitrarily to different text on the site and have them blink and scroll at different rates. A marquee. Okay, great. Not bad. All right, so that, I guess I'll stop there. That's Gemini-cli, and we learned about it. It's I learned a little bit about the MCP tool system. We learned how we saw a bit about how Gemini-cli operates under the hood. It's mostly pretty straightforward. The thing that maybe surprised me the most was the use of the ink library to to run the React app into the terminal. Hey Ash, oh thank you. Do I prefer Claude, Cli, or Gemini-cli, or Cursor, or something? I have only so far used Gemini. I'm going to start using Claude soon, maybe this week. I haven't tried the Anthropic stuff at all yet. Gemini, when it came out, I thought was really good. People still say, originally what I was seeing is people were saying that it was better than Claude. Now people are saying that Claude is better than Gemini. So I'm going to try that out. I haven't used Cursor. I have a buddy who I really respect who uses Cursor and says he couldn't think about going back to coding without it. So I suspect they're really good. And the only other one I've used is Aider, and it was pretty good. It was much better than copying and pasting into the chat window. But I think Gemini is better. I think maybe Claude was the first one that came out. I assume that Claude is maybe even more polished than Gemini. Yeah. So what else did we learn from Gemini? I don't know. We learned a lot. Go back and watch the video, I guess. But we were able to modify its behavior. We saw some of the prompts, and we were able to modify them, and it successfully created something hideously ugly for us. And so that's good. You can probably fork Gemini to make your own, to kind of tune it to your own needs, which is nice. And that's all for me. Thanks for watching. And I'll hang out just a little bit for Ash. Hey Ash, yeah. So you've been doing. I thought you were always using Anthropic. Was I misunderstanding? And are you doing it through? Are you like copying and pasting? I guess these yellow things are supposed to be the tubas. And these are the people. Anyway, I'll drop off there. And Ash, I'll chat with you in Discord if you're around. Bye-bye.